everywhere Leo goes, he'll know people and they will know him.
Yes, I mean, he has contributed to the industry. He worked for Tattersall's Ireland, he worked for Goffs, he worked for the Irish Field.
He loved the breeders. I mean, he was bred to it himself.
Whether it was the senior steward in the turf club or the head groom in one of the racing stables, he knew them and they knew him, and they clearly respected him so much.
I mean, from his time in Goffs, from his time in Tattersall's, through the Irish Field, his own family. But if you think about it, he's one of those people that can represent our industry internationally. I mean, you could drop Leo in America, Hong Kong, France, England, and he'll always represent our breeders and, and our country very, very well. And people know him, and people at the highest level know Leo.
His father worked for Mrs. Brewster at Palmerston, and then Mrs. Nelson. And Leo, as we know, his brother became a top flight jockey. And I mean, Leo obviously wasn't the shape and the size of the weight to be a jockey or a rider, but he managed to carve a really, really good living out of his passion.
Leo understands that, racing is it's a difficult profession because most contests have 8 or 10 participants, unlike most sports where there's 2. So 90% of the participants in a horse race tend not to win. I think Leo's always had a great empathy with the people, doing their best, trying hard, and not always getting necessarily the return that they deserve.
He's incredibly interested in the people that make up this business and what they've done, what their prospects are, and you can feel the goodwill coming from him. So I would think it's his kindness, his involvement, his interest in people and horses, I suppose, in a subsidiary way, are his outstanding characteristics.
I mean, he always used to say, in another perfect world, he'd like to go and run a bookshop. And he actually then left Goffs to go and run a newspaper, which I suppose was something in the right direction.
I mean, nobody knows their pedigrees better than Leo. Leo made a wonderful career out of it, I mean, isn't it wonderful to be able to follow your passion? And I feel that one of the things that Leo brought to the newspaper was his passion. And as we know, there's no stronger quality in the workplace than passion. And that shone through.
Very professional and very knowledgeable. But during his time also, he also wrote that page about mindfulness, right? And there's a whole other aspect to the industry that Leo sort of pushed into our faces a little bit. Mightn't have been everybody's cup of tea, but he got his point across and maybe made us think about different things at times. And you know what? He lives like that. He's kind, he's considerate, he thinks about people.
He has the ability to actually think very, very deeply about people and their problems, and writes an excellent column in the paper regarding mental health.
He's a great enthusiast. He's very enthusiastically diligent in anything he sets himself to do. He's got a passion for the racing and breeding industry, and he's encyclopedially knowledgeable about it all. But most of all, his fantastic enthusiasm is what marks him out, I think.
If I was to ring somebody and ask them a question about horses or people in the horse industry, Leo is the one that I would phone.
If ever I wanted to know about a horse or an owner, I would ask Leo, and he would know in detail whether, as you say, whether it was the Aga Khan or Coolmore or somebody with 1 or 2 mares trying to do their best. But much more than that, he also knew about their antecedents, how the farm started as a stud farm, where their father came from, who their mother was. Did she bring some extra knowledge and familiarity with the horse business into his dealings with them?
He loved breeders big and small, particularly probably small breeders, and whether it was flat or jumping. So many people in our industry are one or the other, but Leo was definitely both, jumping or flat. It was the same to him as long as they had 4 legs and could race.
The fillies scheme that he started with William Flood, and he was responsible in the field, put its weight behind it. And I'm not as directly involved as some in the sector, but my view is that it's had a really fundamental effect on the market for fillies, for thoroughbred fillies in Ireland.
I mean, the fillies have become a hugely important part of our national hunt sport. We have fillies races, steeplechases, hurdles, whatever, graded races. Fillies, in days gone by, they really weren't even raced. They were retained for breeding, never even broken, some of them. But now, of course, there's a huge programme for fillies, and the sport is the better for it.
Yeah, I suppose one of Leo's main attributes is that he's always been an independent operator, if you like, and you know, when he goes places in the world, he's not associated to any one farm or anything like that. He's his own person, and he loves racing, and he loves the international aspect of it, loves going places and meeting new people, and I think represents our country at an international level very, very well.
Leo has travelled a lot. I mean, he's well known across the globe, and obviously particularly in Europe and America as well. And I suppose if you asked somebody from the international sector for somebody in racing who wasn't a trainer or a rider, then it would be Leo, I'm certain.
You'd meet Leo in different places, in different situations. You'd never be alone if Leo's in the room. Leo will always come over if there's somebody in an awkward situation and they walk into a room, and he'll spot them and he'll see them. He's such a people person.
He knows the world of racing in the world of racing. He is just one super guy from that point of view.
I'm sure that he's very highly respected and admired for his fantastic knowledge in the international racing and breeding industry throughout the world.
It was a pleasure to go to a race meeting with him, because you knew that he knew absolutely everyone that was going to be involved.
He really knows his stuff when it comes to every aspect of the industry, and huge interest in it. Like if you think back to the Irish Field and the way he embraced that, and it wasn't just to go to the Cartier Awards. You know, Leo's as happy down in a field giving a pony a rosette at different times. You know, he just loves people.
He's a very kind person, he's a very hospitable person, he's a very helpful person. If you were down on your luck, I know Leo would be at your side, and if you wanted to further your career, likewise, he'd be at your side. So he's an all-round good guy.
He's absolutely loved by people. He's great company. You know, if you end up sitting beside Leo at a table for something, you know you're going to have a fun night.
The awards from the ITBA have always carried huge significance. I've seen him year after year do the presentations, and it's very clear not just the amount of work that he puts into the evening, but the amount of preparation that goes into the background of every single recipient, both equine and human. And I have no doubt that, at least I hope, that he'll be hugely pleased to be recognised by an association which he admires so much.
He'll be extremely embarrassed, but I think he will be pleasantly surprised.
Yeah, I think he'll be thrilled. Very, very, very nicely thrilled. He won't get too hyped up about it long term, but I think on the night Leo will be very taken aback and delighted to get this. You know, he's the person up there always interviewing people. He's always thinking of who can we give the awards to. I mean, as a committee, and I know from being on it for years, that's what we all do. But for him to actually get the award, I mean, it's A1. It's fantastic.
He will cherish it. I know he'll cherish it hugely. You know, when you have been working within the industry all your life, and then they recognise you like this, it's going to be big for him. And I want him to hug that trophy and really enjoy it.
Leo Powell has been a central figure in the Irish bloodstock industry for decades now. An important analyst of our industry and a valuable advocate for it, Leo has reached a global audience with his message. His support for the Irish horse industry and the people who work within it has been immense, and his contribution continues to be invaluable.
I'm going to wrap it up by saying something quite old-fashioned that the great Conmar Nan would say, and that is, Leo Powell is pure class.